What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. We're back, folks. Nightmare Success In and Out. You know, we come here to hear these stories about what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who's been on this show, and he's helped so many people that I've run across here in the St. Louis area and other places, Robert Riley. And we were talking the other day, and he said, you know, Brent, have you reached out to Shane? I said, I remember you talking about Shane Spurgeon. And he said, yeah, he said, you got to talk to this guy. He says, he's just one of those guys that just doesn't give up. He said, he said, your podcast is about hope. It's about overcoming. He said, reach out to him. He said, I'll give you his number. So we did. And actually, Shane and I were just catching up here before we were getting on the air. And I think he's got quite a story. So, Shane, welcome in.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
And Shane, he's actually in the podcast studio, so we don't have to do the talk through the computer. So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm still getting used to the headphones and getting adjusted.
He's got the headphones.
Yeah,
he's got the big microphone. He's good to go.
Yeah, I'm used to just talking.
He looks like a real radio guy, real podcaster. So, Shane, you've shared some of your story with me, but take me back a little bit and let everybody kind of get introduced to you. When Shane was growing up, what was life like for you growing up as a kid?
This is what I do want to just start with and kind of lead into just to me, and is I was looking into some of your other listening to some of your other podcasts. Yeah. I was reading some of the bios. I'm not sure if that's even the right word, but I was reading into them, and I'm like, well, I don't have a business. I don't have this. I don't have that. And I'm like, why am I doing
why
that?
Me?
But that's my struggle.
Yeah.
I'm getting better. But that leads into like I'm not good enough. Like who am I? I'm nobody. I'm just.
Is that how you felt growing up as a kid?
So that leads into like that was my story. That was the negative beliefs about myself, and I kept myself down. I was my own worst enemy. I kept myself in my own self-imprisonment. Yeah. So I tell a lot of people all the time, the time I did in prison was nothing compared to my self-imprisonment. Just being trapped up in this freaking head of mine.
Well, we talk about people. Everybody's got prisons built up in their own mind. It depends on what it is and how they get through it. But everybody's got their own things that they go through.
And so I was sharing with some of the guys in my network, and I was like, I'm doing this podcast, and I said just what I told you, and they're like, but stop measuring things with material. But that's how I was. If I don't have the truck, if I don't have the girl, then I'm just a nobody. So, and again, I think I heard you say it on another podcast, and that was, to successful just being free.
Yes.
In the mind and things like that, and that's what we talked about. My sponsor and some other guys I shared with, and it's like, but look where you are now. Mentally, spiritually.
What you've had to grit through and have the courage to step through.
But like I say, it's still a struggle. I've been dealing with those beliefs for 30 plus years. So.
Well, everybody has things. That's the thing. As long as you work on it, and getting back. I'm curious. Like when you were growing up, what was your mom, your dad, siblings? Mm-hmm. What was that? What was that environment like for you? Was that a good environment? Was it one that you started feeling like, I don't fit?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Jefferson County, in Missouri, and grew up in what I call the Valley. I always say I live on a street. I lived on a street where I wish every kid could. Yeah. It's 40 houses, dead end road, woods all around us. But parents were great. My dad was a truck driver, so he was only home on weekends,
Yeah,
you know.
on the road.
And then when he did come home, and there's nothing against my dad, but you know, like I was in trouble a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's back in the, early 80s where, you know, ADD and ADHD and autistic and all that stuff was not
Nobody
around.
talked about that.
You know, your kid's just hyper,
Right.
you know, and that's what my problem was. And I just could not get right, you know. So throughout school, it was...
Do you have a group of friends that you ran with?
So, you know, just, you know, no, because that was part of the problem. You know, like my mother was great, dad was great. We just didn't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So the clothes I wore to school, I wasn't very, you know, cool, you know. And so I was just kind of stuck in between all these little crowds and sometimes picked on, you know. And so that's where it all started. And then just not feeling... just not feeling in place in it, even with myself. So,
did you have siblings?
Yeah. I had a brother, I had a sister. You know, a great family.
Where'd you fall into that world?
I was the oldest.
Oh, you're the oldest. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a younger brother and a younger sister.
And a younger sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's three of you.
Yep. And you know, like I said, great. Just riding 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers all my life. You know, and I got into baseball, and that was my thing. And
kind of your escape.
Yeah, and so now I look back, and I'm like, okay, I can see, because when I got on that field, I became a prick.
Yeah.
I became, you know, like I'm good. This is where I'm good.
Yeah.
And so I was mean. You know, if you weren't good, if you weren't doing what I thought you should be doing.
Yeah, no,
you know,
I get
but
it.
like that's where I could shine.
Yeah.
And then once I stepped off the field, it was okay. I'm a nobody. You know, and I'm just not good enough. And just like I said, being in school and always being in trouble, that's where I created,
builds that up.
I created these beliefs about myself, and just staying in trouble at school. You know, I remember one year, I think I had to spend like 6 months outside of the principal's office. That's where my desk was
that's
in
where
the
you
hallway,
were.
You know, because they're like, we don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, and my mom, I remember one time my mom was like, your teachers are passing you because they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, like, what can we do? So she put me in Catholic school.
Yeah.
You know, we're already broken. Now she's like, I don't know what to do. I'm willing to do this. And I went into Catholic school, and she thought that maybe the nuns could get me right.
Yeah.
You know, and
so what was that like for you?
You know, I really don't remember.
I mean,
was
it?
To remember.
It had to be a huge adjustment though for a kid. How old would you have been when that happened?
So I don't want to say 6th grade, 5th grade.
Like around 12 years old, 13 years old.
Yeah. And so I went to a little private one. I did middle school there, and then I went on to St. Pius as a freshman, and got there. I was good, like I said, good at baseball.
Continued to play baseball.
And I was a freshman on the varsity, you know, and I didn't last the school year, and I was expelled.
Yeah.
And so then that.
What kind of trouble were you getting into, Shane? What was knocking you around?
That incident was with a female.
Okay.
So so I was expelled, and then I went on to Fox.
Yeah.
And from there, that's where my journey. You know, I found some people that I'm like, oh hey, I can hang out with you guys and smoke weed, drink, start to skip school, and you know, let's go to the mall and shoplift, you know, stuff. And so that's and I had you
kind of felt like you belonged with that crowd.
Now I got a crowd that I belong. They like me, you know, like me, and that's where it all. And
you weren't playing baseball anymore.
No, I quickly stopped. Yeah, and you know, I did. I stopped.
So what was the next step for you?
Next step is quitting school.
Yeah.
And just running nonstop. I was 17. I quickly moved out.
Yeah.
You know.
What are mom and dad thinking?
So dad's gone. Dad's you know, split up. My mom and dad had divorced by then, and you know, just another thing to reassure myself of my beliefs. I'm not good enough for anything, not lovable. But
did you ever let any of that out, Shane?
No,
was it all just compartmentalized inside you that this is just how I feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I share now.
Which, I mean, the thing about that is teenage years are tough anyway. But if you've got that extra whatever you're putting on yourself, that's that much tougher.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of negative beliefs about myself, and that just consumed me, and as I got older, as I got into trouble and did things, that just reassured that this is where you belong.
Yeah.
Is it's down at the bottom with nothing.
Just reconfirmed it.
Everything I did was just like, I told you you're worth.
What about your brother and sister? How did they? Were they in your world at that point?
Yeah, at 17 I moved out, and I stayed gone.
Yeah.
Because this is where drugs and alcohol and running and gunning was more important than anything
else.
And that plays a huge part of my life throughout, all the way up until recently. It's a part of my story, and it's something I'm not ashamed to admit anymore, is that I chose drugs and alcohol over everyone and everything. And that's including all of my kids. And I have a lot of kids. And we can get into that later. I think it started right around that time. That's when my oldest son was born, and it was I'm selling weed and acid. Not making no money. I never made no money selling drugs. And I like to get high. So if I did sell
it was feeding that craving.
But it had him, and just I'm moving around from house to house, apartment to apartment, getting kicked out, partying. That's all my life consisted of, and that's what I allowed to run my life.
So let's step into, because it sounds like there were a series of things that were going on that the controlling factor in all this is drugs and alcohol. So when your big nightmare happened, did you feel like it was that something was going to come down, or was it, boom, that they tagged you and tagged the group, and it was lights out?
You're just talking about the indictment.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had actually stepped out of, I call. Funny I say this, because I was like, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And that was just me stealing pain pills from my dad and doing bath salt, but because I wasn't cooking dope anymore. So I consider that doing good. And I want to say it was close to a year that I stepped out of the game.
Okay.
And I was just doing some things one night, and anyway, funny how that happened. They were just the marshals and the head of the police or whatever. And that I call my case in Southern Illinois because I was staying down there. And chief of police called and was like, my dad did. He's like, hey, they're looking for you. They're all over our family's house. Like, you need to do something. And so I was like, they're like, we just want to talk to you about some string of robberies and blah, blah, blah. And it's the middle of the night, and I'm so high, like, I'm like, all right, I'll come in and talk to you. And as soon as I walked in, there's the marshals, there's the indictment, and again, severely strung out. And I brought some stuff with me, and just in case, but I was oblivious because I was just so strung out. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, indictment for what?
Just a blur.
Yeah. And again, even when I remember I don't remember, but I remember some bits and pieces of the first time I went to federal court. And again, I told you I brought some stuff with me, and I remember going.
Which isn't unheard of.
Yeah, right. And so I remember going, and I remember just being a mess, and I'm sitting in the courtroom, and I'm just looking around, and they're saying I'm being indicted with a bunch of females and like one other person, which with my partner. Yeah. And I'm like, how can you guys be charging me, on conspiracy when I don't even know none of these people? I was just acting a fool. And the next time I went, the marshal was like, you're not so, you're a lot less calm, Spurgeon, than you were last time. I'm like, yeah, I don't remember last time. So like, I just didn't remember any of that first court date and anything they were trying to tell me, And again, I was extremely ignorant to a lot of things, man. And
did you feel like once your head got kind of out of the blur, did you feel like you were in a big deal? Like this was a serious deal?
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing no weight. I'm not cooking no way. I'm cooking to get high.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Right.
And when I heard, 10 years, I got sentenced to 100 months, I was just like, for what?
Yeah.
For what? How you know? And I was, and yeah, of
And
course
100 months is a long time.
I'm
That's
pissed off. Like I'm a low
close to
level.
10 years.
Yeah, I got no. I got a couple of minor priors.
Yeah.
How are you going to give me almost 10 years for some people saying I cooked some dope with them? Unheard of, and I couldn't believe it. And I'm in county, so I'm taking whatever I can get from people.
Yeah.
I'm taking any and everything. You know how it is. What do you got? Let me get that. So I stayed just a mess in county and stuff like that, man. But
How long were you in county?
14 long months.
14 months is a long, long time.
So I'll share this real quick because I was in a little block, and they decided they were going to do some upgrades, and so we had the little windows. Well, ours got boarded up because that's where the upgrade's going to go. So I was in that block for like 9 months. The only time I ever seen daylight was going to court. I went to court twice in 14 months.
So you've never been outside?
No, we had some little thing. It was much bigger than this room here.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was like, I'm not even going outside, like that's just, and so I never went outside. I laid around and watched TV and got fat and just took everything I could possibly get from others, That was my life inside there.
And so at this time, what on the outside, what's going on? Because you've got a kid.
I've got multiple kids now.
Multiple kids
now.
now.
Multiple kids now. That's part of my story. I have 5 kids, 1 more on the way. So I have 6 all. I have just 5 boys and 1 girl.
Okay.
All with different women.
Yeah.
And that is because each and every time I said, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the right thing.
Right. Didn't happen.
No, I chose drugs and alcohol over everyone and everything. I'll say that continuously.
So, and your parents, while you're going through this and the 14 months and all this, are they seeing, talking, visiting? Where does that world end up spinning into?
It was my 3rd son at the time. Because me and his mom, I ended up actually having custody of him. And this is part of my, again, so his mom was in active addiction too. He was a methadone kid, okay. And so long story short, I ended up with custody. She's running again, and I've got him. And I finally got a kid. I've got him.
Yeah, I'm responsible.
I've got this, right? He's living in the back of my truck,
but you got him
in girl's house, and he's cooking dope with me, that kind of stuff. But I got him. My dad wants him. Everybody's starting to wipe their hands clean on me. I never talked to my mom. I never went around. Never my sister. By now, my brother had passed away in a car wreck, and that's
horrible.
That's when I was introduced to pain pills. Yeah. He would come up. My youngest, and again, when you talking to somebody through glass, it gets old, and it's just something I prefer not to do. I'm doing the same thing day in and day out. Ain't nothing changing.
You got nothing to say.
I really don't have a whole lot to say.
Yeah.
So I preferred nobody really to come see me, even when I was locked up. When I went away, my mom would want to come see me.
Well, let's talk about that. So you finally, after 14 months, somebody tells you to pack up, and you head to where?
So they come and get me, and all I know is I get on a bus. I'm just excited to get out of there.
Yeah,
I'm like, where am I going? Where am I going?
Yeah.
End up in St. Louis, and I don't even care. I'm just like, finally, I'm out of there, and I'm moving. And I ended up in Forest City, where I took a bus all the way there. It was like a 2-day adventure.
That'd be a long drive down.
It was miserable, man. But I'm just excited to be out of there and moving on with this journey. And I remember when I stepped foot on Forest City, and I walked out into the yard, and I felt like I was free. I was like, oh, my gosh, look.
Yeah.
I got all this to roam, and I know me and you was talking about this earlier, and I want to say this, and because, of course, I want to come, part of me wants to come in here with this hard gangster story, and I'm a hardened thug, because of my looks, and people expect that when they see me. They're like, I told you this earlier, like, oh, okay, what USP were you at?
Yeah.
All these things. And it's like, oh, I went to Forest City Low. Like, you're in a low? And I'm like, yeah. But I didn't have all these tattoos then, and that's part of that journey,
Right.
But So yeah, so except for the Forest City Low, man, and that was my home for a few years. And
how'd you feel? Like, walking in there, you said you felt like it was like, being 14 months in county, you had to feel like this was going to be a different environment, a different place to live. That, for people who've been in county jail for a long time, obviously there's nothing worse than the county jail.
Worst.
So how did you acclimate to the new life there?
I did a year in Boonville back in '99. So I've got some, a little bit
kind
of
of
history.
a feel for it.
Yeah, and so when I walked in, of course it's a big compound, it's over 1,000 guys, and it's a big yard. It's a big yard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walk in, and it's crazy because I walk into my unit, and they're walking me to my bunk, and all of a sudden I hear, "Shane!" And I look over, and it's my old heroin dealer in the streets. From like Southern Illinois, so I was a trash can. I did whatever I can get my hands on, and so I'm like, "Shorty," and so like all
of a sudden you're connected.
Yeah, I'm connected, and I got the inside plug, and it just, how we do things in there. So the whites, took me under open arms, and it just started from there.
Yeah,
it was again, it was freedom. I thought I was free. After being, in that little bitty cube for so long, now it's like being in a city, I'm just like, wow. So, not overwhelming. A lot of people, it was a big open bay, and that's where the journey started.
So, do you have a prison job? Did you get into?
I refused to work.
So what would you consist of there?
I came in extremely overweight, out of shape.
Decided that was going to be something you're going to focus on.
And so I was like, finally, homeboys are picking on me, like, look how big you are, and I'm like, okay. So I started working out, and all in my 6 years, all I did was work out and play handball.
Yeah. Well, handball's a big sport in prison, isn't it?
That's all I did. That's all I did was play handball and work out, and for quite a few years, yard politics.
Yeah.
Even though it was a low, no matter where you're at, you still have your politics. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, that I remember just turning around one time and I was like, dang, I've been here 2 years.
Yeah.
You just get so caught up and because this is my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have almost 10 years. Like to me, that's forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so
well, it would feel like forever.
I'm just like, I'm not going nowhere. I may not end up going home. Because it's just it can get down like that. So I just started working out and playing handball. I was I was a yard dog.
Yeah,
I lived outside.
How long were you there?
I was there for a little over 2 years.
And then
I got eligible for a camp. So I went I took a bus or something. I don't know how I got to Pekin anymore. I think it was a bus. Took a bus to Pekin maybe, and I got to Pekin. It was the worst situation ever. Mm-hmm.
I've never heard anything good about it. I've known guys that have gone there.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, and you get there in the yards. The little camps on lockdown. No microwave limited canteen, and it was ridiculous, and everything had to come from outside. And the kind of time I was on, I was, like, okay, well, then how come we're not bringing nothing in?
Did Pekin have a fence?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, having some things brought in, and I lasted not even a month on the compound.
After you gotten there?
Yeah. I was there, I was there not even a month, man. It may have been a little over a month, but SIS got me, and
for those who SIS is really the investigative unit inside the prison. They're the ones that investigate everything. They're the scary people. You got the COs that count. they count to make sure you're there. You got SIS that actually looks and tries to find stuff and put people into the shoe, which is the hole. How long did you get?
6 months. 6
months is a long time in the hole.
Yeah, I had a cellie for about 2 months. Another guy for almost a few weeks, and then I did a lot of time by myself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people wonder, Shane, like, because you hear about it and you see it on TV and you know, there's all kinds of how did you handle your time in the hole? Because that's really, I mean, it's solitary.
So I don't know if I can how I can say this. So you ever remember? Yeah, I remember hearing about guys being in a shoe and being in it for so long that they would watch the CEOs come down the walkway and you know, and it's and jerk off.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh, how could after you've been in the shoe so long and like you don't see nobody and you finally see a female? That's when I was like, this is how.
Yeah.
Like that's you get so far back there, and when you get forgot about some days,
yeah,
like you're like, oh, we forgot you were back there. I had a schedule. I worked out. I had a routine. I read a lot.
A lot.
Like I just figured out like when they would bring breakfast and then I'd start my day. I'm like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Read.
You got
work
into
out,
a routine.
Read, work out, and then lay around and just read. I read a lot. I was reading a book a day.
A book a day. What kind of just anything they had?
Yeah. I got into the old westerns. I started reading the westerns because I was like, just give me whatever you got. Bring them back here, man.
Just give me the escape.
Yeah,
mental escape.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. I remember a ton of reading. I did so much reading back there, and again, I ended up at the back of the run, and I was by myself. I had nobody across from me, nobody next to me.
You were really
so I was back
really
there,
in solitary.
And I remember a few times, like I said, like they forgot about me, and I'm like pounding. I'm like, hey, where's my where's Chow?
Yeah,
and then where's the books? Where's because we look forward to all these little things,
sure.
And I'm like. I need that.
Yeah, time getting by.
It'd be nice to see somebody. So I do remember a lot of that, and just and putting magazines up, man. Putting magazines up and talking to them. You know what I'm saying?
Just anything to get for a mind hack to think that you were busy.
Standing up magazines and having pictures of people or whatever, and just talking to them.
It's like the movie of. What was that called with Tom Hanks? And he talked to that ball, called it Wilson. Yeah. Well, it was Wilson. It was a Wilson ball.
Yeah. It was like that.
Yeah.
It was like that, man. It got bad. That's why I started talking to myself.
So when you got out of there, Shane, did you feel different after being in that type of environment that long?
Yes,
all by yourself?
I told you earlier. Everybody that was kept coming back to the shoe. Everybody was getting sent up to Michigan.
Yeah,
and so I shared this earlier. They had the free weights, and it was supposedly a sweet spot. And so I'm like, bet I'm going to Michigan. This is all worth it. This is great. And of course, when you've been in there for a while, you start to know CEOs. They start to do things for you. And finally, one of them came back and told me, they're like, Spurgeon, you're finally leaving. And I was like, where am I going? He was like, Beaumont.
Bloody Beaumont is like, what the Max is known of down there.
I was like, Beaumont? Where's Beaumont?
Bad campus.
And he was like, Texas. I was like, Texas? How the F are they sending me to Texas?
Yeah.
And they're just like, they want you out of here, and I pissed them off and whatever the case may have been. And so I was like, I don't care. Just I'm ready to go.
Yeah. You're ready for a new
I'm out
new frontier.
So Con Air and Oklahoma for a while, and down to Texas.
Everybody says that Oklahoma. I didn't go through Oklahoma. That's kind of like a cattle herd where you just everybody's shackled up, everybody's counted, crazy. Everybody's milled
crazy.
Through. Yeah,
crazy shackled for. It feels like days, You're just lined up in the lines forever, and you're, just got to go through that whole process. And when you finally get up to your pod, you're just like, finally, But it is a huge, long. Imagine this room here, and having 20 guys in here.
Yeah,
you're peeing and shitting next to somebody right next to you, because sometimes they're laying right next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oklahoma is an experience.
Yeah,
is an experience.
Yeah, I've never heard anything good about the Oklahoma experience.
Yeah, but during my time in Forest City, is again you heard me share earlier that I had no love for myself, and just all these negative beliefs about myself, and so. when I get in, I latch on with the white boys. I start to get wrapped up into that lifestyle,
the politics of
it, the running with your car, and
for those who don't know, a car is like 3 or 4 people that you hang out with all the time, eat with, walk with, work out with, watch TV with.
Generally from your neighborhood, and again, I was in Forest City, so there was quite a few of us from Jefferson County, and so it was like
part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, so we and at that time, of course, I've always had a fascination with tattoos, and of course, one of the homeboys was a tattoo artist, and I just started getting
away you went.
Started getting blasted, and I had a few people working on me at one time, and
one of the things about that though, there was a guy, big boy, that was the big tattoo. Well, there was 2 or 3 of them, but one of the main guys. But somebody could come in there. I remember one time there was a guy that was doing the tattooing. He wasn't new. He was new at it, and that guy got a staph infection. Where it wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before, and that happens more times than not. With what's going on. I mean, the good guys know what they're doing, how to do it, but it could get dangerous.
I had an inside joke, and that was if I looked at a tattoo gun, I'd get staph.
Yeah,
because it was just a period of time. I think one summer where
people can die from staph.
I just had it every time the needle touched me, I got staph, and it just I ended up being a whole bad batch of ink that was made, and I kept going with it.
Not good.
Yeah, no, I ended up with staph.
So
every week.
When you finally got down to, you went through Oklahoma, got down to Beaumont, what was life like for you down in that world? Because is that where you ended up to be your final destination?
Yeah. So getting down to Texas, another disciplinary yard, big.
Yeah.
It's another huge
big
compound.
Campus.
Yeah, it's huge, and it was. I walked in with open arms. Some of the people had already heard about me, knew I was coming, and so when I
isn't that weird how that happens?
Funny, isn't it?
I mean, it's just like it's
heard about you. We already knew he was coming, and so it was open arms, and again, what I had done to myself as far as tattoo wise, it was I never seen it because I never seen myself that way, because I completely had my head done. I was working on my face, just covered, and some of them they were racially inspired, and so I had things that stood out, and so walking in, again, people say I'm intimidating looking. I don't ever see that because I see myself.
You don't see yourself that way.
I see myself as a scared little boy.
Yeah,
and that's what I was all my life.
Right.
So I never knew my size.
Yeah.
I nenever knew how I looked, and it wasn't
kind of took you back when people thought that.
Until I got into like Texas, and people were like, no, do you know what I'm like, no, I don't. And I remember I started looking back at some of the prison yard pictures, and I'd be like, dang, I do hover over everybody. I am tall, I am big, but I just I never could see myself as that kind of person, because of how I felt inside. So I never, took advantage of I did, and shortly thereafter, because I started to recognize that what I'd done to myself as far as tattooing and my size, that just the look that I presented was, people stood off, and it was intimidating. So that, of course, went to my head, because I have nothing inside. So if I get a little piece of something, then I need that, and that was a part of running with the crowd that I ran with in prison,
and being intimidating.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because now I'm looked at, I'm feared, I'm respected.
Yeah,
I need that.
Right,
I need that. And when I came to Texas, the yard speaker was going home, and I played handball. That's all I did. So I knew everybody quickly, and so for a Missouri guy, St. Louis guy, to be in Texas, and then I ended up being the yard speaker down at a Texas prison. Was
Explain to them what the yard speaker is.
So I was the speaker for the white car. Mm-hmm. And so anytime anything came up, whatever it may have been, I was the speaker for the whites for that compound.
Yeah.
So that alone was just big, So now my head's even bigger.
Yeah, you're really in prison politics now.
And again, like I said, that my years just like I would turn around and like, dang, another year went by.
Yeah.
It's like that kept me busy.
Yeah, that was how that was your strategy of killing time. Being in that prison politic world, because there's a lot of prison politics.
Yeah, it was. It's a full-time job, and let alone playing handball. And in Texas, handball is big.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that, But doing all that, one thing I always share is, because people always ask about the tattoos and all this, and I always say, it's part of my story now, that listen, this isn't, I didn't do this to look cool or look tough. I was doing this to cover me up. Mm-hmm. I didn't like to look at me, and I sure didn't want you to look at me, because I feel you've seen me, you've seen how I felt inside, and now was that scared little boy. I'm going to cover that up.
Yeah,
it wasn't that's all I was doing. And of course, I'm just a big collage of stuff, and the stuff I liked, and a lot of these things I'm not into no more, and some of the things I'm in the process of getting laser removed, because it's not where I'm at in my life anymore.
Yeah, things have changed, evolved.
Well,
as things got, because your years are clicking by, because I know you did RDAP, which is a thing that you can get a year off for, which is the program that I think, if I remember right, it's a 9-month program. I went through it too. What was that like for you? Because that's a program that's supposed to, it's all about rational behavioral thinking. What was your thoughts going into that world? Because that's almost like a cult that you enter when you go into RDAP. It's you got a number here, and
I'll share on that. Because leading up to that, of course, I'm in trouble again. SIS is steady pulling me up, and I remember I got my RDAP. I got my 2-point reduction.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting that and having somebody help me do the timeline, and that put me, with that 2-point reduction, that would put me directly into RDAP now. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was in trouble. There's some things that happened. I might be getting shipped again. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I grabbed that paper, I ran up to SIS, and I was like, listen, look, I just got approved.
Yeah.
This would put me directly into RDAP.
Yeah.
And that means, after this, I go home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
I want to do this.
I want to do this. I want to do it here, because if you guys ship me, that's going to be 6 months in the shoe.
Yeah.
Another, a few months to
travel,
get to where I'm going.
I don't want to travel as an inmate.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's getting into my going home time.
Yeah.
So I need this, you know? So I'm like, listen, I'm done. You won't hear my name no more.
This is it.
I'm going to fall back. Mm-hmm. And they're like, all right, we're going to give you that.
Okay.
So go back within a week, I get shipped to RDAP. It's just another unit, but
feels like an island.
Yeah, and there you go. Because you're no longer allowed to get in trouble.
Right.
If you get one bride up, I can't think of the right name anymore. It's been so long, But if you get in trouble, you're out.
Yeah, they take your year away.
Yeah, so I'm like,
I mean, some people they would set back, and then that was, you get set back for 2 or 3 months. But some people they just kick out, and you lose a whole year. I saw a lot of guys that lost a year.
Yeah, so no,
it's a huge deal.
I need that. I need that, and so I get over there, and of course, let's how to say this. Try not to get too prison-y in all the terms. All the homeboys knew. Okay, you're supportive. This is where you're going.
You
we support you.
Yeah.
You're no longer in trouble.
Right.
It's we'll handle all this now. Mm-hmm. You're in there. You stay over there. So it was supportive, and that was nice.
Which is a good thing, yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it's doing that for all those years. It's hard to step away.
Sure.
And when you can no longer think about getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And when that's all you're used to doing, it's like, dang,
different
what do I
lifestyle.
do now? Yeah, I don't want to hang out no more. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. So again, it's RDAP. It's my first thought was, it's about drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough about drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, And I remember one of my partners saying, "No, man, like no, it's about you."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Anyway, just give me that year off.
Uh-huh.
Let me get that.
Yeah. Fake it to make it.
Let me get that. So I get over there. Linda Smith is my counselor's name. Amazing woman, man. Amazing. That woman, and even the guys in our depth would just be like, yo, like, what are you two doing?
Mm-hmm.
We never, and these guys are already completed and they're just waiting to go home now, you know, and they're like, we never seen her work with somebody so much as she does with you. And I was like, I don't know what she's doing. She's got me watching these videos. She's got me doing some nonsense. I don't know. Miss Smith's seen something in me that I just didn't at the time.
Mm-hmm. Maybe for the first time that's happened? Somebody seeing something in you?
Yeah.
Seeing potential? Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where all this came about. Mm-hmm. So I remember sitting in her, similar to this, and I'm looking out the window in the yard, and Miss Smith goes, Shane, what are your goals? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, goals? I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
I'm ignorant because, like I told you, in school, all I did was get in trouble.
Right.
I got Fs. I just got pushed along all my life. So I was like, I don't know what goals are, How do you feel about yourself? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are your beliefs about yourself? Again, I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. She put on a piece of paper, and there was a list of core beliefs. Mm-hmm. And she's like, any of these resonate with you? And I was like, yeah, it looks like about all of them. She was like, okay. She's like, listen, how do you feel about sharing that with the group tomorrow? And the group is 90 dudes, And I'm like, yeah, I don't care, And now, mind you, in RDAP, you become a facilitator, co-facilitator, all that, right?
Yeah.
So I said earlier, I had no self-confidence.
Getting up and speaking in front of everybody.
I didn't like to talk at all.
Yeah.
So go back real quick. When we just had to do a training to kind of learn about the facilitating part, remember doing that? So I go in and I'm telling everybody, like, listen, man, like, I don't do this. I don't speak. I'm dumb. I can't talk. Nobody wants to hear me. I don't know how to do this. I'm in my grace. And we're going around the circle, right? Just kind of do a little test run.
Yeah.
Before, when it got to me, I broke out in a sweat, soaked my uniform. Yeah. And it's not a joke.
Yeah.
The homeboys, everybody was like, oh my, I'm like, listen, no, like I
don't do this.
No, like I'm shy. All these things, like I don't do this, man. And in there you have to do this.
Yeah. Start breaking down your walls.
So, and again, like, that's, RDAP changed my life. Yeah. I did a 180, man. And Miss Smith, she was like, do you mind sharing this with the group tomorrow? And I was like, no, I don't care, whatever. So we got to the group next day. And she said, Spurgeon wants to share, blah, blah, blah. And it was me reading off the list of beliefs that I had about myself. Mm. And so when I did all that, before I made it to the door, I had a line of guys like, oh, was that set up? Were you guys doing some, little script or what? Like, you don't think of yourself like that, do you? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I'm like, we don't see that, and I'm like, that's good for you, but I do. This is me, and this is how and so that's where it started. Mm-hmm. The combativeness of me being a nobody, not being able to speak. The list just goes on. And when it came time for me to facilitate, it was, you're the captain of the ship. Get up there and take control. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm gonna do a great effing job on this. Mm-hmm. I want to do so good, and I want to speak loudly. I want to speak right, and I killed it. Mm-hmm. I went up there and like I just did it, and everybody was like, oh, like again, some of these guys are already done, and they're just hanging out. You know how that goes. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, listen. Never heard anybody speak so clearly, so loudly. Mm-hmm. Like, you killed it. And I was like, really? And so, like, that started that journey of me being able to speak.
And giving you confidence.
Yeah. So, the long story short, with me speaking, at the end, when you graduate, mm-hmm. they vote somebody.
Yeah.
I was that somebody.
Yeah. You and me both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I didn't write the speech.
Yeah.
Because I had a white collar guy.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, I'm going to help you write this speech,
I was the white collar guy.
Yeah. So I had you writing the speech for me. You know what I'm saying? And
But isn't that something, though? You and I both sitting here, both of us not thinking that we would get anything out of that program. And then us being the people at the end that spoke.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I because when I did graduate, SIS and Captain were like, pulled me up and like, we had bets on you. Like, we didn't think you was going to last a week, and even when the counselor's like, we've already heard about you. We don't want no trouble. If you got anything, we're going to kick you out. I'm like, no, I'm trying to get that year.
What a great story, though, Shane, because, the program is what somebody makes it, and then who is in the program, who's directing it. And you got into a situation where you were open, was her name Linda? Mm-hmm. To her, and she's asking you questions that you haven't been asked. And all of a sudden, this opens up, a little crack to a light that says, maybe I can do something different. Yeah. And then you do. So you complete this, and I'm at this point, I think you're probably close to getting out, right?
Yeah. So I do the RDAP, and I think I had like a month to wait. And again, like I told you earlier, I had done a 180. Like I believe in myself.
You'd gotten that feeling,
self-confidence. Yeah. Like I'm like, I remember calling my mom and my sister and be like, wait till you meet me.
Yeah.
Like I am somebody else now.
I feel different.
Like it was crazy, because I've always wanted to feel this way, and I'm like, I got it. Like I believe in myself, and because I've been combating, and had help, with combating those negative beliefs about myself, and so I'm like, oh, okay, and so when I came home,
I think it's interesting too, Shane, when you open up and you told Linda those things, you probably hadn't told anybody any of that, right?
No, because I didn't know what they were.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting when you open up like that and get it out. That in itself starts a process that's different, because you don't even know what you're dealing with until you speak it, and you're speaking it to somebody and you feel different.
Yeah.
So many people walk around with that thing that's inside and they never say anything. They go to bed with it every night. They wake up with it every morning, and it never gets off their back. Whereas at some point, she saw something in you, took the time and sat with you and opened up a conversation that you got something out that had been sitting in you since when we started talking, when you were a little boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I try to share with a lot of people, if you feel comfortable enough, especially get intimate enough with somebody to share about how you feel, about your beliefs about yourself.
Yeah.
Because I promise you that person doesn't see that.
Yeah.
And start to, use that exterior combativeness, because it helped me, have somebody be like, well, write them down and show somebody.
Yeah.
If not, and work to a group of people, because they can help you be like, no, you are beautiful. You are smart. And it worked for me,
Yeah.
and that's just it's all I got is my experience, and hopes that it helps somebody else,
So Shane, you step out of this world, you've been in there for 6 you've been there for 6 years, and how do you walk out of there? What do you walk out to?
I walked out nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. Again, I was. You hear a lot of people say, I lost everything. I heard a term, and I've just stuck with it. I gave all my things over and over.
Uh-huh.
Because I was an old junkie and I could find things. So I never lost nothing.
Yeah.
I gave all my things away, man. And that was, houses and cars and families and kids, over and over.
So what's in your mind
coming
as
home,
you're walking out?
Coming home is a totally, completely different mindset. Again, that RDAP program and Miss White and myself, and the help of others, I was positive. Now I'm positive. I heard this guy once in there, Mike Williams, lived across the bunk from me, and he was like, you ever thought about doing something positive?
Uh-huh.
And seeing the positive reaction and things that come with that, and I was like, that's stupid. He's like, well, look what you and your partners do all day, every day.
Yeah.
You're yelling, you're screaming, and you're full of chaos.
Yeah.
And look what you guys live in.
Right.
I was like, huh.
Yeah.
All right, I got nothing to lose. I'm doing things differently. Let me try this.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to hang out with different people. So I started doing that. And so when I came home, it was a positive, self-confident mindset, like, let's go. You know, and my mom and some family members were worried because when I come home and you know, I've got child support, I've got, you know, no license, you don't have nothing.
Yeah, reentry's tough.
You know, we'll help you, you know, but like you please don't let this set you back, you know. And I'm just like, no, like it's gonna be okay. Like we'll keep doing what we got to do. And I
different
remember,
mindset, figuring it out.
Yeah, I remember my mom and my sister just being like, you know, just looking at me like, wow.
Yeah.
Like you're okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, like it's gonna be all right. You know what happened? I came home and I was able to get my license right off the rip. My mom's like, what? I'm like, you know, I don't know. It's just happening. You know, child support. One of the cases, the kid's over 20, you know, 18, and like that, you know, that like one of those got dropped. You know, and I was just like, she's like, I can't believe this, and it, you know, it just doing the right thing, and just kept opening up the door from, you know.
Got on a roll.
Yeah, you know, and so I got on that roll, and just positive, man, and that just got me so far. Just staying positive, staying plugged in, which was, I don't know if that's really the right term, staying plugged in, because I wasn't plugged into nothing. I started drinking. Nothing against my sister. I love my sister to death, and she kind of, I feel she takes a little blame for this, but she introduced me to vodka. Yeah, because I used to drink, but drugs was my thing, you know, meth and pain pills.
Didn't need the alcohol.
Right. You know. So when I come home, and of course, you know, drugs are my problem. Nothing else is. I'm not addicted, you know.
Yeah, not addictive to anything.
No, I have that, you know. So I started drinking, and again, because we all know, I felt if I got in trouble, I would lose that year, and I'd go back to the joint. So I'm like, I can't, you know. So I got a job, you know, working in some factory, just doing that lifestyle, you know. My sister let me move in with her, and
trying to get by.
Yeah, you know. So I was able to get on my feet, and I met my ex-wife, and we moved in together. I moved in with her, and life was good, man. Life was amazing. And I was drinking, you know, but that's okay, right? Because I'm not getting high, so this is okay, right. You know. And but now, you know, it was that whole positive mindset and being that Mr. Positive about everything. And again, it wasn't, you know, crazy drinking. That came later, you know. And we built a small empire, you know, like I call it. You know, we both had new cars. I had an amazing job. We just bought a new big house, and by now we have my daughter, you know. And
what were you doing at that time, working wise?
So I ended up getting in with a buddy of mine. Got me in with this sewer and plumbing company, and it's just rehabbing homes for the owner of that company. But we do work with him.
Yeah, a lot of money in that.
It was, you know, company truck, company gas card. You know,
it was good deal,
great money. You know, and so we were doing extremely well. And he started getting high, and I was cool for a while. But we all know what happens. That one day of the fuckets.
What the hell?
That one day came. I got away with it. And what I mean by that is I didn't have a UA soon, so I got away with it.
Yeah.
And we all know what happens. Okay.
Try it again.
Let's roll the dice on this again. When I did get in trouble, I got a slap on the wrist. What? I'm not losing?
Yeah.
I don't have to go back? Like any addict, myself, and it's off to the races. We lost that job. Still doing good, you know. I ended up, you know, we ended up opening our own little company, and I'm still working, you know, just rehabbing houses. Like I said, we had my daughter. That was planned, and I'll share this with you. So I finally have a daughter. I have 4 boys. That was never around. You know, maybe a month or two. You know, never.
Weren't able to build a relationship.
Yeah. I don't like to exploit things. But we had a big house, nice things, man, doing really effing good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting high, hiding it. And I remember coming in, my daughter's crawling. I come in the back door, and she would round that corner, and I would just look down at her, and I'd be like, if you don't stop, you're going to lose all this. You're going to give all this away.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a great thing here. You finally have a daughter. Like, you look at you. I couldn't stop.
That just shows you how strong the addiction is.
I couldn't stop. Question always be like, why? Why can't I stop? Why isn't my daughter? Why isn't, all these things enough
to make me stop?
But I couldn't stop. I got a little taste of it. And once I started looking back, like once I started to relapse, all those negative beliefs started to
start feeding back in.
They just overtook me. And this is what you deserve. You deserve nothing.
Yeah,
You're
you didn't deserve the other stuff. Yeah, this is really you.
Yeah. You don't belong here.
Yeah.
So like that flooded me.
Imposter syndrome.
And so I just, I'm self-destruct. Nobody's gonna hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's gonna get over on me. I'll leave you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always did all my life.
Yeah.
I'm a runner and a taker. I run for my feelings and I take everything you got.
Mm-hmm. So what happens?
I said earlier, right? My ex-wife.
Your ex-wife.
Amazing woman. Don't get it twisted. She dealt with me. Fought for me. Her and my PO, we're friends, and that kind of stuff. And my PO really worked for me, man. And I always say this to guys, man. Listen, all I can speak for is my POs, and like they really wanted nothing but the best for me. Like Stacy seen me at my best, and that was what coming home and building this.
Yeah.
And she seen me extremely strung out after a year, and was like, "What the F are you doing? Look at you."
Mm-hmm.
And so I, they would put me in, their little state treatment centers, and I've been to RDAP. I know everything.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. Like, you guys can't teach me nothing. And state run. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, and she would tell me, just go dry out. Just go dry out, Shane. But now, mind you, I want to say this because, like I said earlier, when I was in RDAP, that's when Linda was like, you got something.
Mm-hmm.
You've got something, Shane. Do something with yourself. The way you look, your story, the way you speak, people are drawn to you. Do something with yourself. I'm like, yeah, And so when I came home and I had to do outpatient, the counselors there were like, oh, like you need to do something with yourself.
You're on the right path.
And so I wanted that, and I chased, but I didn't know where to reach. And we all know coming home, like, it was obstacles in the way.
Sure.
And I didn't know who to talk to. And so I'd get shut down, and I'd just get pissed off. And then I'd just like, you know what? I'm just not going to mess with it. I can't, I don't know where to go. And in and out of treatments. And on this last go around, I want to share this story with you real quick. Kind of let you know how bad I was on that relapse. Getting high, hiding it from everybody. People are trying to pay attention. My mom wanted nothing more than take us on a family vacation. Okay. And I can't leave the country, so she's like, "What if we just go down to Florida for a week, and as a family?" And we went down. Extremely chaotic. I ended up coming back by myself, ruined the whole trip. I spent all the nights alone by myself on the beach. Left my family down there. It was that bad.
Just a mess.
Yeah, I brought down some
which should have been a great situation.
An amazing time, and I remember just standing back from afar and watching my family. And just again, like, you worthless piece of
beating
shit.
yourself up.
And so that to this day, that's my mom just wanted that family time, and here I go again. Can't get nothing right. But the feds were sending me to another treatment center, and my sister works at Silent Lake. She was a nurse there, and
which is a recovery treatment center.
Which is a treatment center. And by now, like I said, they had cut me out of their life because I was just
you were back at rock bottom.
Running, man. I was running hard, and again, I never go back there. But here I am, selling, getting high. My sister calls me, and I haven't spoke to her I don't know how long, and she was like, "Listen, I work at Silent Lake. They have this scholarship for people who work there for immediate family members." She was like, "The one of the co-founders of this place is you. This is you got all this same back." She's like, "I just wrote him a letter. I've talked to him. They're gonna see about getting you into this treatment center." I'm like, "Fine, whatever, And I was supposed to go check in the next day with the state's facility that the feds were sending me to. And like 10 in the morning, she was like, "Listen, they're gonna call you tonight." And
meaning you were accepted.
Yeah. She's like, he's trying to get, Robert's trying to get this approved. And 11 o'clock at night, somebody called me.
That's so cool. I mean, for those who haven't listened to Robert Riley's story, go back and check out his episode, because Robert, his story is one where you're like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. And then he builds it back, and he's done so many great things since he's been out, and with his struggles and being able to share with other people, he's helped so many people. And that's how I, heard about you, Shane, is he thinks so much of you. So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt your story.
No, absolutely not. That's where my next part of this journey began with me. And so I remember my sister was like, "Yo, I'm going to meet you, tomorrow morning." And she did. And I remember she walked me into Silent Lake. And I remember walking in and standing there and just looking around at to the little child hall cafeteria, and just these little small things that I seen, and I was like, "Yo, like somebody knows what they're doing. Like this looks comfortable. This looks nice. This looks different, homey. This looks just relaxing. Just all these things that these state-run facilities don't have." And I was like, and not only that, but now I'm looking around and I'm seeing workers that look like me, and I'm like, "What? You work here?
Yeah.
You work here?" And I said this on my first day, and people would tell you.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going to work here one day."
Yeah.
Like, wow. Because, again, I told you, people kept telling me, I got something, do something with yourself.
Yeah.
So I step in, and an amazing place. I told you earlier, the OG Silent Lake. Silent Lake saves lives, but the original Silent Lake was hands down the best.
When was your first meetup with Robert?
What was that? 20.
Did you just
20
immediately?
No, so I got in, and he ended up popping in a few days later and introduced himself, and it was just an immediate connection, obviously, because the way we look and where we've been and all that stuff. And I remember telling me, he's like, "I pissed a lot of people off to get you here." He's like, because there's a line of people to get in here, and he was like, he was like, "But I got to call your sister called me," and he was like, "Had to make it happen." He's like, "So they'll deal with it." He's like, "Plus I own the place," So I was like, "All right, but the place is amazing, man." And just went through everything that they had to offer, whatever they had to offer. I was like, "Let me get that," MDMR. I had an amazing counselor there, and she was big into core beliefs. I went through a process with her, 6 steps to freedom. which is an amazing book. Choose Again. I recommend it to anybody.
Six Steps to Freedom.
Choose Again. 6 Steps
Choose
to
Again.
Freedom, and life-changing book, man. Life-changing process. And I shared my story one time, and some higher ups had heard it, and again, more people around me looking at me like yo, like you've got
been
something.
on a journey, yeah.
We'd like to help you. We'd like, these kind of things. So now I got somebody who wants to hold my hand, and needless to say, that the hand never got met. But, I remember, Robert, which he told me, I remember this because he shares it in his podcast. He was like, keep doing the next right thing. He's like, there's going to be opportunities in front of you.
Yeah.
It's just up to you to grab them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. I'm like, all right, and I didn't know what doing the next right thing meant, you know. And so, needless to say, before I left, I did I was in there for a few months, did all I could. And he was like, hey, man, I'm getting ready to open up. Sounded like sober living. He was like, I need somebody to rehab these apartment buildings. You want to do it? Yes, now I get to, so
real
that, yeah, so I was, with him throughout that whole process, man, and Robert gave me an opportunity, and unfortunately I shit on it.
Yeah.
In time.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, me and him have talked about it. He was no longer there, but again, I always thought drugs were my problem. As you get into recovery, you realize I have a lot more problems, and women was one of those, and so needless to say, I, got fired from that job, and ended up doing good for a while, and got into another relationship and destroyed that. And this is the first time that I've seen how much I hurt somebody.
There was almost like a pattern.
Yeah, and it just was just to watch what I'd caused, which is now my fiance. Just watching how much I hurt somebody because because I need outside outside validation. Like that, again, you heard me say I'm just a scared little boy, and women fed me. Whether it just be through a conversation on the phone or in person, I needed that. And I needed that all my life, and again, I had a fear of abandonment. I just had a long list of things, but I needed that validation. And this woman, my fiance, is amazing, but I still needed outside validation. So I destroyed that and stepped back out for a while. And now I had almost a year. Clean. No drinking, no drugging, no nothing. As opposed when I came home from prison, it was it's just drinking. It wasn't getting high. And that's okay. But no, I realized I quickly became an alcoholic. Drinking all day, every day, and just gave all that away, man. Gave it all away. My daughter's mom, she said, if you get high again, you'll never see your daughter again. Guess what Shane did?
Got high again.
Shane got high again. Because that's why you won't catch me. I'll figure this out, and it's going to be okay because drugs are more important. Getting high is what just fed me, It pushed all that down. It numbed me, and I just let that consume me, and I didn't, and nothing got in its way. Nothing got in me and getting high's way.
So where was the point where you figured out Shane's got a fork in the road, going to take this fork this time? This time's going to be the real time.
Ended up, like I said, I'm using again, talking to Robert off and on, and Robert told me one time, he said, when you're done digging, call me. by now I am staying at a house out in the country by myself, which is something I've never done because I've always been with somebody, a female, another person. And that was the first time that suicidal thoughts came through my mind. I was like, again, I gave all my things away, another family, and here I am alone. 47 years old, getting high, alone again.
Same cycle.
This is, you're not, when are you going to get this right? Why can't you get this right? What are you doing? And that was the first time I ever thought about suicide, just sitting there and just just stop. Stop it all right here, and of course I'm too much of a coward and pussy to do that. It's just real, it's just no way, and so I quickly brushed that to the side, and one morning I was thinking all morning, like, okay, I'm done digging. I was like, how can I what am I going to text Robert? What can I say? And he shot me a message, and he was like, how you doing? You done digging? And I was like, dang, I was like, I am, man. And he called me back, and he's like, all right, you're going to Jersey. Get your shit together. I was like, Jersey? So he sent me up to another one of his spots he's got his fingers on up in Jersey, and it was an all-male facility. So I get up there, and I'm like, where are the women? And they're like, no, it's a male facility. And I'm like, this dude, man, he got me, and that's what I needed. I just went up there to regroup, man, and I needed that time alone for Shane to be okay with Shane. I remember going to the beach, Jersey Shore, and be like, well, I need a female here with me. This isn't right. I got to have a female. And it was like, no, like I had to embrace that, just sitting on that beach, and going to New York by myself with not a female. It was like, no, like you need to just do this by yourself. And so that's what I did up there, man. And I loved it. I wasn't coming back. Did I tell you earlier I was selfish? I don't know if I ever said that. I'm extremely selfish. So I'm on the East Coast, and I'm loving it. I got a great thing going, and I'm like, I'm not coming back. I have no reason to come back. I got my daughter, but she can come up here and visit me. That's where I was at. And then one day it clicked. I was just like, hey, here you are again being so selfish that, you can try to figure out how to get her up to see you, when in reality you've created such a family up here. Then why don't you go home and then you guys can come back together? Like, how selfish are you being again? And mind you, my ex-wife said you'll never see your daughter again. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to come back. And so I came back, and I just embraced at this time, a God. I started to dive into that because, like I said earlier, my brother was killed, so I had nothing for any higher power over God, if anything like that. Because if there is one, how'd you take my brother? How'd you do that? When you let all these other weirdos walk this earth, and I struggled with that for a long time, and that's just part of my story, And so I was like, okay, if I'm doing things differently, then I got to keep an open mind, And so I started to dive into, trusting in God and believing in God and trusting the process. And so I, doing that, and not only that, but I started to work a program. I started to live a lifestyle of recovery, not just counting days. Yeah,
kind of a consistency, a discipline of recovery.
Yeah, because there is a difference, and I feel, of just, I've got 9 years, or I've got 9 years of recovery. To me, there's a big difference in that, and that's why I say these days is like, how much recovery you got in you? Because I feel there's a big difference between just counting days and actually living this lifestyle and applying all these principles in my daily affairs. And that is of just the honesty, the willingness to do what needs to be done. And that is talk about my insecurities with my spouse, be open about those kind of things, instead of just keeping those things in. Or like I told you earlier, that was, when I was reading some of these bios, and I was like, I I don't deserve to be on the show. I don't have all these things, you know. But I talk about that with the men in my network. They're like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, you know. So I do that these days, man. And that's what.
You know what I think what's so interesting about you, Shane, is your story is so honest and you're vulnerable, and that creates a realness. You know, authenticity is what, you know, ultimately, you know, if you're empathetic, you're vulnerable, you're open to letting what you feel out, so you deal with what you feel, then, you know, you start stepping towards the right things. You start stepping into good things. And that's, a lot of people can't do that because they never can break down that barrier that they're afraid of. You know, what happens if I break down this wall? What's on the other side? Can I deal with that?
Yeah.
You know, what does that mean for me? Am I good enough to break down the wall to get to the other side?
Yeah. No, it is. And me was just, you know, again, talking about how I was feeling, you know, it's just something I didn't do, but I was like, if things are, nothing changes, you know, and again, this is what Shane's been doing. Obviously we see that does not work, you know, so it's like, all right, I really want to embrace this different lifestyle. And so that's just what I started doing. I really started
the thing of it too is you had bits and pieces. I mean, you had that feeling in RDAP. You had that feeling when you had kind of run into Robert that moment, and then you went through that program and read the book, and you had pieces and glimpses.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So I'll get those I get those, and I'm like, okay, so I know what it's like.
Yeah.
You know, but I had to take those, and then I had to dig deeper, and then that's what, you know, like, that's what it kept going was that would just scrape some off the top.
Yeah,
like, that's good enough.
Yeah,
like no,
you had to go down.
I gotta keep digging, and it's why I don't stop, because I've been doing and believing and thinking this way for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 48 now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, like that, you see that doesn't work. Shane's way, Shane's will, you know, is not. It's
so where are you at where do you think you're at today? How do you feel? What's going on in Shane's world?
Man, you know, again, peace, serenity, man.
First time you've had peace, maybe?
Yeah. Like it's to not worry what others are thinking of me.
Yeah.
To feel,
which is huge, by the way.
Oh my gosh, is it? Because of course, I'm the most important, and everybody's talking about me and thinking about me.
Yeah.
When nobody is.
Yeah. They're busy with their own thoughts.
Yeah. You know, but it's that, man. It's just to be able to be quiet in my own head. You know, and to love myself. To be able to, again, I keep saying this, to talk about things, and because me that was huge. I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, these days, doing the right thing and putting in the action. You know, my ex-wife, you know, I do have custody of my daughter these days. You know, I've got visitation, all that. So, you know, that is amazing. And but it's just the peacefulness I have inside of me these days, man. You know,
after walking through all of it,
all that, and just what goes on in my head, you know, the thoughts and the feelings that I had about myself. And again, I held all that shame and that guilt inside for so long, and that's what I allowed to weigh me down and hold me down all my life. Because who does these kind of things, and who you don't, you know.
So do you think that? I'm just thinking that people listening out there, do you think that the peace you've earned through everything, is that the thing that is able to push away the addiction? That, you know, like you said, the fuck it moment is that you've gotten to this place that you love and you feel and peaceful. You think that's the mechanism that keeps that motor running the right way, not to fall, and keeps driving for where you're at?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. How I feel, I do not want to lose this, you know, and if that means, you know, that I
whatever that is,
within my 12-step meetings and my network of men, and just.
You said something too, Shane, that I thought was good. Changing the people that you're around obviously is a different thing too. And a lot of people don't even think about that. But when you change the people that you're with, and they're doing different things, and they're doing things that you want to do in a positive way, you begin to act like and feel that way also.
Yeah, I said earlier I'm selfish, and I'm still that way in my recovery, because you're right, because I only surround myself with guys who have what I want.
Yeah.
And that's that peacefulness, that's that spirituality, and it's how they handle themselves in daily life.
Yeah.
And that's you're right. That's who I surround myself with guys who I'm like, oh, like I want to be like you when I grow up. You know, and with I'm only like 10 years younger than them, but still, I'm just like, 2 years, I want this, you know, so it's unfortunate. I try to tell people, I'm like, I don't mean to be like this, but I need that in my life right now, you know, so that's who I surround myself with. And it's people, places, and things. I mean, if I want to go hang out, because my job, I hang out on the block, you know, and
tell us about your job right now, because I think it's a cool thing that what you do. And I did, until you and I talked about it, Shane, I wasn't even aware that it was something that we were doing as a society to do this. So
So I work for Chestnut Health Systems and Metro Transit System here in St. Louis. Wanted to bring a solution to the unhoused, to the mental health and addiction on the transit system. And so they joined up with Chestnut to be like, hey, what can we do? And so it started 2 years ago on the train on the Illinois side, and basically 2 people just riding the train, doing outreach, and it did well. So they want to implement that into St. Louis side, and then this is what I joined on to last year. And basically, I hang out at the Civic Center. I hang out at different platforms and ride the train and just help people.
You help people.
Yeah, boots on the ground, as we say, and just out
people that are in need.
Yeah, you know, whether it be in passing out Narcan, whether it just be, you know, to listen to somebody that day, man. But, you know, sometimes, you know, we're able to get people into detoxes. Just today alone, I think I got like 5 guys into a shelter, you know, because of some of the perks we got with our phones and these apps and things. And, you know, so it's just.
I just think it's really cool, Shane, because what I think is cool about it, first of all, I think the program's cool. What I think is even cooler is that there's people like you that are involved in it, because somebody who's it's homeless, and you said unhoused, you know, and they're in the bottom bowels of whatever in their life. You can identify, you have empathy for that. And those are the type things, you know, a police officer helping somebody, that's fine. But for somebody to give somebody a hand that actually knows how you feel, knows that whatever that vibe is that's going on right now, that's the thing that makes the connection. And I think that's just so cool that you found that, and that there's a program out there that does that, but they have the right people in that program to do that. And it's very cool. Very cool.
One of the things I said, what, you know, with what I've done with myself with the tattoos, and it was like, okay, so you've done this to yourself. What can you do? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, people are drawn to me because of my looks and in my story, and if I can give back and help make a difference, then okay, then I'm gonna use what I got.
Yeah,
this
use
is what
your
I
whole,
got, and this
your
is what
whole
people,
self.
you know, it draws them to me, and if they're able to relate to me because of my looks and
use it all,
the way I talk, then it's like, okay, then I'm gonna use this up.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I got, you know. So I'm just using that, man, and you know, I try to, you know, speak.
Don't
to
you
the
think
kids
that's? Don't you think that's a lot of what that is, though? If, you know, going through, and we talk about this a lot on this podcast, going through your worst fear, it becomes your reality. If you can use that and those whatever strategies that you use to get through that nightmare and help people with that, you know, that makes a difference, and you're making a difference in people's lives, and that does fill you up. That does give you that, whatever that success ratio thing is, that's what sets you free.
Yeah.
That's what sets you free. And that's, you know, that's why I think you're an absolutely perfect person for being on the podcast, because that's what this whole podcast is about. You know, that people out there listening have struggled. People out there, I'm sure that are listening, have been or might be in the exact spot you were in. And to hear that you gritted it out, didn't give up on yourself, and then found a way to find something that helps more people that are struggling, that you can empathize with, that can put them to another place. That's the good stuff. Mm. That's the good stuff, Shane.
Just providing some hope, man. Providing some hope.
Which is, you take hope away from something that you never want to do that, because hope might be all they have. Romo said that one time, a friend of mine, and I think it's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
I got to ask you this, because I ask everybody this, Shane. Mm-hmm. Those listening out there, what would you say is your biggest takeaway from all of this that you've gone through, lived through? What's you're at now?
My biggest takeaway? As far as like I finally love myself, mm-hmm. You know, that I am somebody.
Yeah.
Which
is a first step, right?
Yeah, the first step is forgiving myself to know that I am no longer that person I used to be, and I did make a lot of terrible choices, but that's not where I'm at in my life these days. You know? So it's again, if you want to judge a book by its cover, because this happens to me all the time, and I love it. If you want to judge a book by its cover, then that's you, not me. But I'm an open book. Come flip through my come flip through my pages. Because I promise you, I'm not what I look like. And that's what I love about, one thing about my looks is that people are like, you're nothing like you look. And I'm like, no, I'm not who I used to be, I love myself and I don't know how to say this, but I'm just a different person. I care and I love myself, and I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I had, and I'm also grateful for all the mistakes I made, because it got me where I am today. Mm.
That's powerful. Gratitude's a big deal.
Yeah.
And what you're doing right now is the reason why you are who you are, because you've gone through and stepped through all of it. Good stuff, Shane.
Appreciate you, man.
Big stuff. I love it. And man, just keep doing what you're doing. For those out there, love, you guys liking and following the show, sharing the show. If you need a book out there for the holidays, hey, it's a holiday season. Get it, Nightmare Success. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. If you want to leave me a message, go to brentcassidy.com. Love to talk back and forth with you guys. Love the reviews on Apple, Spotify. That helps the show. Puts us better into the algorithm of whatever that world is. As I used to say when I was writing my emails back and forth at Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Nightmare Success in and out. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. Appreciate you.